Hi everybody, this is the Lost Boy with your gaming news and my opinions, and thanks for watching. If you enjoy this video or agree with what I said, feel free to subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell if you'd like to see new videos when they come out. Well, if you noticed there weren't any videos out in the last 2 weeks, that's because my PC decided to just up and die one morning. After 2 days of troubleshooting with no joy, I found that my power supply had surged and shorted out my motherboard. Without many options, I decided to rebuild and made the switch from Intel to AMD's newish Ryzen line. Really, when you compare specs and prices, it seems like AMD is far ahead of Intel right now when it comes to bang for your buck. Anyways, whenever there is downtime, things inevitably pile up, and the last couple of weeks have been pretty eventful as far as gaming news goes. For one thing, the ROMs and emulation situation has shifted gears yet again. Assassin's Creed is apparently no longer doing annual releases, and there's some potentially really exciting news coming out from Valve and Steam. So, enough messing around, and let's see if I can get everything covered. First up, let's get the little stuff out of the way. Ubisoft has announced that they will not release a new Assassin's Creed game in 2019, and that they will instead focus on providing additional content to the 2018 entry, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. This will actually be only the second time that they've missed a year without any new entries in the series. Since the very first Assassin's Creed game way back in 2007, the only other year without an entry was 2016, and several years actually had 2 entries. Personally, I don't see this as a bad thing at all. Even if you use 2 different dev teams and stagger the releases, a AAA game release every year is just way too ambitious. As a person with at least some idea of the scale involved, even 2 years is not really enough time to create something worth releasing, and in my opinion, this is at least part of the reason that Ubisoft has kind of a terrible reputation as far as quality assurance goes. I've linked a couple articles in the description about it if you're interested. I think every 2 or 3 years tops would be a much better release frequency for a series, and it would also help with franchise fatigue as well as quality. Next up, Valve appears to be poised to launch a new streaming service called Steam TV, which is thought to be a competitor to other streaming platforms like Twitch and even YouTube. While that is interesting, I think that the bigger news is the announcement from Valve that its Windows exclusive games are now going to be playable in Linux, in theory at least. It's pretty technical, but Linux enthusiasts have long been at work on solutions for making Windows games playable on Linux. Up until now, it's been a fairly arcane and user-involved process, but this appears to be an out-of-the-box solution for Steam customers. Here's an excerpt from the announcement. Today we are releasing the beta of a new and improved version of Steam Play to all Linux users. It includes a modified distribution of Wine called Proton to provide compatibility with Windows game titles. This is a pretty big deal, eliminating another huge barrier to entry that has plagued Linux from the perspective of many PC gamers. And it will be very interesting to see how this affects Microsoft's market share and PC gaming in general over time. Now, on to this week's main topic. The last time I talked about ROMs and emulation was right after Nintendo filed lawsuits alleging potentially hundreds of millions of dollars in damages. The suits were filed against 2 popular websites that host ROMs and emulators for download, as well as apparently including in-browser emulation. Since that time, several more long-standing pillars of the emulation community have also pulled all download links from their websites. 2 very well-known sites that are now unusable are emuparadise.me and theisozone.com. Although the sites still exist and appear functional, if you actually try to find download links, you will find that there are none. The sheer relevance of these 2 websites caused this to be more shocking and significant than hearing about the lawsuits. When I found these 2 long-standing sites were now non-functional, I was pretty bummed out and considered taking a crack at the dark web or something, but before I tried anything drastic, I posted a question to some forums. Lo and behold, I actually did get an answer directing me to another website that is hosting all of the resources from the isozone.com. That's a pretty big relief, and somewhat confirms my thesis from the previous video that for every one of these websites that gets cut down, 5 more will sprout up in its place. But at this point, who knows how long any given site will remain usable? I'm not sure we're out of the woods on this yet. It seems to me that lovers of the gaming art form have had easy access to an incredible archive of gaming, art, and history, and for that I feel very fortunate. The problem is, I think a few people are taking things way too far and it may wind up causing the rest of us to lose out on a really wonderful resource. Here's my opinion once and for all. Websites hosting in-browser emulation, as well as sellers on eBay, Amazon, and so on, selling RetroPie boxes that come preloaded with full ROM sets, are putting the rest of us in danger of losing the easy access we've had so long to all these ROMs and games. Why would I say that? Well, follow me here. As a fan of older games, I discovered ROMs and emulation in the early to mid-2000s and was happy that, with a few downloads and a little tinkering, I could set up and play nearly any old game I could think of. I'm sure that's the experience of many people, and I'm actually pretty sure companies like Nintendo don't really care so much about people like that. One of the statements they made in their lawsuit would even seem to indicate that. On the other hand, when you have such things as in-browser emulators or fully loaded ROM boxes, this changes things considerably. Anyone at all can simply hop on your website and do a search, and in 30 seconds they are playing pretty much any game they want. In the case of ROM boxes, you just pony up the $100 or $150 and the thing shows up in the mail with a controller, an HDMI cable, and a few thousand pirated ROMs, and all a person has to do is plug it into the TV. No technical knowledge required. When anyone and everyone can simply browse to a website or pay some software pirate for a game box, it's easy to see how a company like Nintendo can directly prove damages as a result of lost sales. Without easy solutions like in-browser emulators or loaded ROM boxes, most regular consumers will see legit sources as their only real options, and Nintendo would be less likely to lose those sales. This is also why I'm not posting the ISOZone mirror site location. If you look around, you can find it, but for now, I think it's best to keep everything pretty low-key. I think there might be a way that could possibly preserve the ecosystem we've all been so fortunate to enjoy, but it requires basically boycotting all websites that use in-browser emulation, as well as sellers of game boxes with pirated ROMs. Should be easy, right? Seeing as the likelihood of that happening is just about zero, I can only hope that things don't get any bleaker. Let me know what you think about any of today's topics in the comments section below, and that's it for this week's video. If you're still with me, thanks again for sticking around. All of your support is greatly appreciated. Always remember your happy thought, and I'll see you next time.